Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the MMA Corner Prediction Show. As tonight, we give you our thoughts and predictions on UFC Fight Night 42, Henderson versus Khabilov. I'm your host, Josh Davis, alongside my co-host, Jason Shelkey. Uh, I don't know, Jason, what do you think? There's a lot going on with this event. Give us your thoughts.
And still trying to get caught up from last weekend's mound of fights they had us watch. 40 fights in like 36 hours. Still kind of getting over that, but yeah, I mean, you got a lot of really interesting fights on here. Of course, you got a fight with a lot of relevance in the lightweight division. Got Jason High making his lightweight debut. Um, Sanchez versus Pearson, and a bunch of fights at 125 that are going to have some significance. So, I think it's going to be a great night of fights, and it'd be really interesting to see how this all plays out and how the divisions get shaken up after the event.
Yeah, I know a lot of people out there have been saying that this is kind of a meaningless card that they just threw together, and that's absolutely not the case. I mean, you have a solid main event, you have a solid co-main event. Then John Dodson versus John Moraga. Obviously, that fight's going to have title implications in that division. As you said, Jason High debut against Rafael Dos Anjos. Then you have Yves Edwards on the card. Uh, Little Pettis is on this card. So there's a lot of fights that make sense. There's a lot of fights that actually do have some relevancy and some meaning. So, again, another free card. What do you have to complain about? I'm stoked for it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to get into it. So, with that being said, let's start it right off. We got Brian Caraway versus Eric Perez. Jason, start us off.
Man, I really like Eric Perez in this fight. I haven't been really impressed with Brian Caraway since he's been in the UFC. Um, he doesn't have a lot of striking. His game plan is pretty simple. He's going to take you down. He's going to try to ground you out, grind you out, get a decision, or he's going to try to, get a submission victory. I mean, so far he's 3-1 in the UFC with his only loss coming. I'm sorry, 3-1 with his only loss coming to Takaya Mizugaki, who is a beast at 135. He's a great fighter, but I just really like Perez in this fight. I mean, he's young kid, a great striker. He's won 4 out of his 5 in the UFC with his only loss coming to Kaya Mizugaki. And I just have a feeling that that Perez is going to pull this one out. I like him from what I've seen of him. He looks impressive, and Caraway, he's been really, really hit and miss, and so I'm going to go with Perez.
You know, I have to agree on a couple of counts. First off, it's not that I dislike Brian Caraway because I don't. I just don't think he's an elite level fighter. It's not that he's a bad fighter or anything like that. I just don't think he's one of the top guys. I think he's a B level fighter at best, and I think he's going to have his hands full with Eric Perez. If Eric can keep this fight on the feet, I certainly think that Perez will pick him apart and do what he wants to. Now, obviously, Caraway is an excellent wrestler. If he can get this fight to the ground and if he can control position and stay on top, then obviously he can find ways to win. I just don't think in this fight he can do that, and that could be completely wrong. He could go out there and flat out dominate Eric Perez, and if that was the case, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think this is Eric's fight to lose. I think he's got the better striking. He's got solid takedown defense. He's good in the clinch. If the fight does go to the ground, it's not like he's some kind of scrub there either. So I do like Eric as the all-around fighter in this fight. I think he can uh, get this fight taken care of. I don't know if he's going to get a finish, so I'll say Eric Perez by decision. All right, uh, moving right along. There are 6 fights on this main card. So we got Yves Edwards versus Piotr Hallman on this card. That's the next fight. I love Yves. He's such a good guy, and he's been around the sport for a long time. And I remember seeing him I remember seeing him fight. God, now fight Mark Hominick back at Ring of Fire here in Denver, way back in the day when Eves was the top 155-pound guy in the world and no one wanted to fight him. Little Mark Hominick, I think he was 19 years old at the time, maybe he was 20, whatever, still a young kid, came in and put the smackdown on him. It was an exciting fight. Anyways, Eve's been around for a long time. I love this guy, but I think he's lost it. I'll just be honest. You know, it's no disrespect to him, but if you look at what he's done over his last few fights, it has not been good. You know, he had the no contest against Yancey. Then he lost to Cruikshank and Volley Flog. He did get the highlight victory over Jeremy Stevens, but had lost to Tony Ferguson before that. His best days are just behind him, and I think he's going to struggle here. I think Hallman is an excellent fighter. The guy's on the rise. He's going to be able to do the things that he wants to do, and as much as, you know, I hate to see Eves lose, I think that's what's going to happen here. I think Edwards is, you know, again on his way down, and he's certainly not going to get this victory. Want to welcome Justin Fuller to the show. Justin, give us your thoughts on this fight.
Thank you. You know, I've been a longtime fan of Eve. He's definitely one of the old school guys still rocking it. I think he's got, I mean, I don't even know how many fights in the UFC. It's definitely like over 15. So he's one of the most experienced guys still on the roster. But while I agree, I think he's lost it, I like him in this fight. I don't know if Hellman has, I don't know, man. I mean, he's younger. He's still developing, so we'll have to see. I'm not sure. You know, I wasn't impressed with him in that Iaquinta fight, but we'll see what can happen because he's still young. He's still developing, and this is definitely a good test for him. But I'm going to pick Eve. I think he's going to pull out some crazy second-round stoppage.
You know,
Jason.
I'm liking Edwards in this fight too. You can never count out the wily, crafty veteran against a new up-and-comer. Because Yves, I mean, he's had, well over 60 fights, documented fights. Who knows how many smokers he's been in. I mean, the dude's just fought a ton. And, I mean, who can ever forget his knockout, that crazy head kick knockout he had over Josh Thompson back at, I think it was UFC 47. One of the best head kick knockouts in history. But I digress. We haven't seen that much of Hallman. He's 1-1 in the UFC. He didn't look good in his last fight. And, coming off a loss like that with a young guy who is relatively new on the big scene, it's kind of hard to know how they're going to come back from their first loss. Whereas Edwards, he's been there, done that. He's lost, he's won, he's taken his lumps. It's just another day to him. So I'm liking Edwards in this fight. I don't know if he'll get the finish, but, I'm going to pick him by late submission.
Interesting. No, I wouldn't be surprised if Eves gets the victory. I just think his best days are behind him. A couple of things. Eves does have 62 sanctioned fights on his record. So just to clarify some stats there. And again, no idea how many smokers or unsanctioned bouts he's been in. But yeah,
I counted 19 UFC fights too.
Exactly. That was going to be the next thing that I got to. So just, again, so we make sure that we have our stats correct on this show. Anyways, so that's two picks for Eves, and then I'm the lone guy going home. And you're right, Jason. He didn't look good against Ally Quinta, but a lot of people don't. So I'm not going to hold that against him. I do look for him to rebound in this fight. However, Eve's the man. He always will be. And on any given night, he can beat anybody in the UFC. All right, moving right along. We got Rafael Dos Anjos against Jason High. Again, Jason High making his lightweight debut. Jason, start us off on this one.
Dude, how can I pick against the guy from Missouri, man? I mean, they're few and far between on the big show. I got a pull for him on a personal level. However, I think this is a bit too deep for Jason High in his 155 debut. I mean, they're putting him up against the number 5 guy in the division. And High, he was kind of hit and miss at 170. But, it's always the questions that you have a fight, you have about a fighter whenever he's moving down a weight class or up a weight class. How's their power going to carry over? How's their ground game going to carry over? Or, being the naturally larger man, is he going to be able to ragdoll him on the ground? It's all stuff that needs to be answered, and they're throwing Jason High a huge test against Dos Anjos in his debut here. But as much as I will personally be rooting for Jason High, I think that Rafael Dos Anjos, he's going to take this. I think he's going to get the better of the ground game. I don't see him finishing High. I think it's going to be a grindy 15-minute decision, which is unanimously going to go Dos Anjos.
Justin, jump in here.
I'm going to have to go with Jason High on this one. He's actually looked pretty good in his last few outings at welterweight. He did have that loss to Silva. And, I mean, yeah, when he was in the UFC before, 4 years ago, he had that loss to Charlie Brenneman, but that was 4 years ago. That was just a different time. He was a different fighter then. And you don't usually see guys that are having success drop in weight. We usually see guys drop in weight because something's not going well. Well, he's coming off a 2-fight win streak in one of the most stacked divisions and dropping into an arguably more stacked division against a guy who going into his last fight was right there on the cusp of a title shot. So not to discount Dos Anjos, but I think High has everything working for him in this fight. I'm just really curious to see how well he manages the cut, how well he performs at this new weight, and I think he has the skills necessary to defeat Dos Anjos. And that's not a discredit to Dos Anjos at all. He's a tough guy. He's a legit top 10 guy. But I think that High's just a good matchup for him.
On paper, I love this fight. I think stylistically, they match up very well together. I think each person has ways that they can win this fight. Now, with that being said, on who's going to win, I really do go back and forth, and I'll tell you why. Because I love Jason High. 18-4, like Justin just said, he is on a 2-fight win streak. He did have the loss to Eric Silva, but it was the reverse triangle armbar. I mean, come on, that thing was insane. Seriously, you can't really discredit him on that loss. And then before that, he was on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He was on an 8-fight win streak. The guy's got a ton of talent. The thing is, I can never get a Rafael Dos Santos fight correct. I didn't think that he'd be able to beat Donald Cerrone, and he did. I didn't think he'd be able to beat Evan Dunn, and he did. This guy also has a lot of skill, and yes, he's coming off a loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov, but I mean, come on, dude, that guy's the beast right now, and I think he really is possibly the future of the lightweight division. So you can't discredit that loss there. I love this fight. I go back and forth. It's a tough one to call for me. It really is a pick 'em fight, but I am going to go with Dos Anjos just for the simple fact that every time I pick him to lose, he wins. I think Jason High has more ways to win this fight, but I'm gonna pick Dos Anjos to get it done. All right, guys, moving right along. Another fight that on paper I really like, even though they fought a long time ago, not in the UFC, but they did fight each other way back in the day, and that's John Moraga and John Dodson. They fought at Nemesis Fighting, MMA Global Invasion back in 2010, December of 2010 to be exact. John Dodson got the unanimous decision. I think it's probably going to be similar in this fight. I think Dodson's just too quick for most everybody in this division. And while John's biggest problem really has been his own ego, he believes in himself a little bit too much and has never really been able to put everything together. Well, coming off the UFC Ultimate Fighter show, he's really been able to start doing that, and they haven't pushed him. Yeah, they gave him the title shot in which he had every opportunity to win. He just didn't get it done. Since then, he rebounded with a victory. He's got another opportunity to move right back into title contention, and I think he does that. I think if he's unable to get a TKO on John Moraga, I certainly think that he picks him apart for 3 rounds. I'm going Dodson in this fight. Fuller, jump in here, give us your thoughts.
Dodson by knockout. He's not only one of the few guys that's consistently finishing guys in the division, he's like the only guy knocking guys out on more than one occasion in the division. And I mean, granted that win was a few years ago, and T.J. Dillashaw is a completely different fighter now. The guy knocked out the current bantamweight champion. So I think I agree with you. There was opportunities he had going into that title fight with Mighty Mouse, but Mighty Mouse is just such an athlete, and he's one of the best guys in the world, and he had a great game plan, and he did take some shots, and he recovered well, and I do like Dodson in the rematch with Johnson, and I definitely like him in this fight with Moraga. And Moraga's a tough guy. I like watching him fight. He's also a finisher, but I just Dodson by KO or TKO, second, third round.
Yeah, I mean, Moraga's tough guy, really fun to watch, but Dotson by knockout. I mean, like Justin brought up, he knocked out the guy who just knocked out Renan Barão, who everyone thought was unbeatable at 135. So that should tell you something about Dotson's punching power. I mean, the dude at 125, he hits like a truck. And also, Josh, you did get one thing right. John Dotson does love him some John Dotson. So, yeah, he may have a big ego, but he's got the punchy power to back it up. Yeah, Dotson by knockout.
You know, it's funny because John Moraga is no slouch. I mean, this guy is 14-2. He was, you know, he was on a 7-fight win streak before he lost to Demetrius Johnson. Dude's no slouch. But again, I think I'm with you guys. I think Dotson gets the finish here. I think he's too quick, and at that weight, I mean, this guy's like throwing little golf clubs, dude. It's insane. He puts it on your chin and you go to sleep. So I think that'll be the same thing here. All right, moving right along. Co-main event, Ross Pearson, Diego Sanchez. Formerly known as the Nightmare, then known as the Dream, and now back to the Nightmare. So we'll see how that goes for him. Jason, start us off on this.
He's the Nightmare again?
He's the Nightmare again.
Well, he's like the P. Diddy of MMA, man. He just changes his name every week.
I was thinking Prince, but yeah, that'll work too.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, to each their own, right? I mean, well, of course, you're older than me. You know more about Prince than I do. Anyway, you know, I think regardless of the outcome, I think this is going to be, you know, a high candidate for fight of the night because both these dudes, they just go out there, they throw haymakers, they have, you know, especially Sanchez, the dude's always moving forward. He's, you know, looking to get the knockout as much as he can. But, however, I do think that Pearson, he is the more accurate striker. He lands more punches on average than Diego Sanchez does. But we all know that, you know, the harder you hit Diego Sanchez, the harder he's going to come at you. So I think it's going to be a really, really good fight. But I think we've already seen the best Diego Sanchez has to offer a couple of years ago. And I think BJ Penn beat it out of him. And so I'm going to take Pearson. I don't think it's going to be a stoppage. I think it's going to be a 3-round brawl. But I do think that Pearson's going to be able to dictate the fight better using his more technical striking.
Justin.
You know, this one I go back and forth on because it kind of depends, you know, which Diego shows up, which Pearson shows up. I like Pearson in this fight more. I think he's the more technical fighter, but I'm not sure if he's going to get to use that striking to his advantage. Because in this fight, he might be outsized. You know, Diego's one of those guys who would be perfect if there was a 165-pound weight class, but there isn't. You know, and Pearson toyed around with featherweight for a little bit, so that just goes to show that he's not on the upper end of size as far as the lightweights go. That said, I think Diego's going to want to go in there and put on a show. I don't know if he's going to eat any, you know, beef tartare or not, but I don't see him trying to grind anything out or go for a boring fight, and I think that that's going to be his downfall. That's going to leave him open to taking big shots, and he's going to get picked apart on the feet. And that if he does go for the takedown, it'll be too little too late. So I got it by Pearson, unanimous decision.
Wow. Both going Pearson. You know, here's the thing. Diego's fighting in his hometown, and it's tough to beat a guy in his backyard. And Diego Sanchez, I don't know. The sport really passed him by. Uh, Coming off the first season of The Ultimate Fighter, which he won at 185 pounds, so going to Justin's point about the size difference, not that Diego's huge or anything, because he's really not, but he's certainly going to be the bigger fighter. Like I said, he, won the show at 185 pounds, then dropped down to 170, did, obviously fight at 155, all that kind of stuff. But there's no way he was making 145. He's too big. So he's certainly going to be the bigger fighter here. The thing that kind of struck me most about this fight, really leading into it, is that he did change his name back to the Nightmare. And I'm kind of thinking that maybe he's going to go back to what brought him to the dance. And really, that's not as striking. Diego is, whether you like him or not, his striking is rudimentary at best. It is not great. It's, if I was grading it, it's probably C level. And when you're fighting elite strikers, he gets picked apart. And, his face certainly shows the tolls of that. Now, with that being said, I think that if Diego goes back to what he does best and gets a takedown, gets on top, and throws some elbows and does some ground and pound, he can get this victory. And I think that's what he needs to do. Now, if he wants to stand and trade with Ross, like you guys pointed out, he's the slower fighter of the two. Yeah, he might be able to hit harder, but Pearson's going to, dodge and weave, use his angles, and pick Diego apart as Diego comes running forward, the way that
Diego does. Swinging at nothing.
Exactly. Seriously. King Hippo, old school Mike Tyson punch-out style.
He's the champ of, missed power strikes.
Seriously. And
I want to see the stat on that. He's got it.
And so I think if that's going to be the case, Pearson's just going to dance around him and beat him up. But I think Jackson will have his head on straight. I think he'll come in, look for the takedowns, that kind of stuff. I have Diego Sanchez. I actually think Diego's going to be able to get the takedowns. I don't know if he'll be able to finish Ross, but I definitely think he'll be able to bully him around and get the clinch, get the takedowns, get the positions that he needs to win the fight. So I'm going Diego Sanchez on this one.
Hey, Josh, I got one question really quick.
Sure.
You just called Diego Sanchez the King Hippo of MMA. So if you punch him in the stomach, do his pants fall down?
Dude, they might. They might.
The King Hippo.
Fighters have said he's weak in the gut, so I don't know. I've never trained with the guy, so I don't know how that is. And the reason why I say King Hippo, and it's no disrespect to Diego, when he comes, he'll like this and just come running forward. It's like King Hippo in the game.
He bites down on that mouth guard and just says, "Bring it."
There's no technicality to it. There's no fundamentals to it. It's just I'm going to run forward and throw punches. And if you're there for me to hit you, great. And if you're not, I'm going to be swinging it there until I decide to stop and turn around. And, again, no disrespect to Diego, but as much as he's worked on his striking, it's never evolved to the level that it needs to be for him to try and strike with everybody the way that he has. Diego started off 17-0. Lost to Josh Koscheck, which was his first loss. Since being 17-0, he has gone 7-7. He's a 500 fighter over his last 14 fights. That's got to tell you something. And ever since then is when he started to get away from the things that he does best. He needs to get back to just basically bullying people, because no, he's not a technical fighter. He's not a technical striker. Just get back to beating people up, and that's what you do best. And sometimes it'll work for you, and other times it won't. But I am going Diego. All right, enough rambling about that fight. Let's move on to the main event. Ben Henderson versus Ruslan Khabilov. I want to start this off, but I won't. Who wants to go first? Fuller it is. Way to volunteer.
Man, this is an interesting fight, and I think out of all the fights recently, this is the hardest one I have picking. Hustum is fucking scary, man. Him, fucking Khabilov and Nurmagomedov. Man, they're both a couple of scary fucking Russians in that division. And I think, this is definitely Benson's chance to show that, him being champ wasn't a fluke. He's not a boring fighter. I mean, he had a lot of, even though he's had a lot, 10 decisions in a row? Oh, no, never mind. He did have that submission loss to Pettis, but he had, 7 straight decision wins. This has everything in the making to be a great, exciting fight, regardless of what strategy Benson comes out there with. But this is his chance to show that he deserves that title shot. He deserves to get a rematch with Gilbert, or he deserves that third fight with Pettis. And Rustam, man, this is his coming out party right here. He just picked apart Masvidal. He's looked great in the UFC so far. We've only seen him 3 times, but I definitely want to see him 30 more times. And even though he's tough, he's got the skill set to take it to Benson. He definitely deserves this fight. I don't think, he's being spoon-fed anything. I don't think he's necessarily jumping the rankings too much just because of how stacked that division is. But I'm going to have to go with Benson. He's been in 5-rounders before. He's been in big fights before. And this is just not Rustam's day. He's not there yet. He has what it takes to be there. But I think Benson's just going to come out ready to show, ready to party, and ready to put on a good fight and win this.
Jason.
Rustam Khabilov is a scary, scary, scary guy. And I don't think that Benson Henderson, even though he was the lightweight champion, I don't think that he was as good as he was made out to be. Because I'm personally one that believes that he's been gifted more decisions in the UFC than any other fighter in recent memory. But with that being said, Benson, he is an incredible fighter. He has great striking. He's, quick on his feet. He's quick on the ground. He's got great transitions. He's as scrappy as they come, but Rustam is just scary. We haven't seen much of him in UFC, but like Justin said, there's these, breed of Russian fighters coming in that are just, they look just so dominating, and they look to be the future of, the respective divisions. And I think that Rustam is just going to put an exclamation point on that on Saturday night. I don't think it's going to get the finish. I think it's going to be a fairly close fight, probably 3 rounds to 2, but I am going to take Rustam in this one. I think it's going to be a really good fight. I think it's going to be a fun fight for fans. I think it's going to be 5 rounds stop action, but I'm going to go Rustam here.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I love Rustam. Khabilov, the kid's vicious. I love all of the Russian fighters, and anyone who's watched the show or listened to us on the MMA Corner radio, what have you. I love these Russians. I've been on them for a long time, and the reason is because they bring a style that we're not used to over here in the States, and guys that train over here, they don't know how to deal with it, so it makes for exciting fights. And a lot of people, have been acting like they don't know who this guy is and how is he the main event against Benson Henderson. Well, I'm here to tell you, if you don't know who he is, go YouTube him, watch some of his fights. This guy's a scrapper, and he absolutely deserves to be in this fight, like Justin said. And he's going to bring it to Benson. He's going to give Ben everything that he wants and more. I go back and forth on this fight. For me, it's a fight that Ben should win for the simple fact that he's been there before. He's going to be the bigger, stronger fighter. You could argue about athleticism, but I'll say he's probably going to be the more athletic fighter as well. Plus, he's going to have the lucky toothpick. And anytime you got that lucky toothpick, you never know how things are going to play out. So,
where'd you fight with that toothpick?
So
that was one of the. I'm not. That was one of the greatest moments in MMA history.
It was.
Wait, would you have that in your mouth the whole time? Like, what's going on?
And so you got to take that into consideration. And no, I love Khabilov. I think he's going to bring everything to Henderson. But I think in the end, Ben's experience in the big time fights is just going to be too much. Plus, we know Ben has cardio that can go for days. I think, like I said, I think right now he is just it's just going to be his night. However, I do think Khabilov is one of the bright spots of this division. I certainly think he is going to be the future of the division. But I do think, again, it's going to be Ben's night. Khabilov's only 27 years old. He's got some time before he truly hits his prime and moves on. I think this is going to be a great learning experience for him, but I'm going Ben Henderson. All right, guys. With that being said, final thoughts. Let's go with you, Fuller.
You know, I mean, we always find a reason to get excited about every card, but when it comes to fight night cards, cable cards, this is definitely one of the most stacked top to bottom in a row. There's always at least one fight to get excited about. And then because this is what we do, we're excited about everything because we love fighting. But every single fighter on this main event, like, we've seen them fight a number of times before. You know, no one's new to this sport. No one's new to the UFC. Every fight has a significance in some level. So that's a lot of excitement to get going around, you know, be it seeing Benson, see if he can get back to a title shot, seeing if Diego still has what it takes to hang in the sport at all, seeing if Dodson's going to be the only guy that can still knock people out of the division, or seeing if Brian Caraway gets his ass kicked, which everyone loves to see. So, you know, there's no excuse for people not tuning into this one at all. You got a former champ, couple former #1 contenders on this card. It's free. It's on Fox Sports 1. So there's no reason to not be checking us out right after the fights, breaking it down, and knowing exactly what we're talking about because you saw it happen.
Jason.
You know, there is one person that doesn't like to see Brian Caraway get his ass kicked, and her name is Misha Tate. Well,
that's her job.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, you know, to piggyback on what Fuller said, you know, all the fights here have some, you know, significance within the division. You know, and don't forget about Jason High. If he gets a dominant victory over Dos Anjos, we have a new player in this incredibly stacked lightweight division. You know, and you know, we like Fuller said, we find reasons covering the sport to get excited about it, but this card there is no reason. You know, we don't have to make up anything or search for, oh, this could be a good fight, this could be a good fight. I mean, all the fights on this card are, you know, really interesting. I mean, even the prelims, you know, little Pettis fighting. A lot of people think that he's going to be a really, really good fighter, future of the sport. You know, got Bobby Volker, Scott Jorgensen, a lot of really exciting fights. So I think it's going to be a good night of fights, and I'm really looking forward to it all.
Even the Fight Pass prelim has a guy that was in the co-main event of a freaking pay-per-view. I'm going to point that out.
Patrick Cummins, the guy who fought Daniel Cormier.
All right, the guy with the co-main event pay-per-view debut. It's a Fight Pass prelim. So watch that. Watch the Fox Sports 2 prelims, or the Fox Sports 1 prelims. You got Scott Jorgensen on there. What's that guy doing on a prelim that's not pay-per-view? That's how stacked this card is.
And not only that, it's Scott Jorgensen versus Danny Martinez. This is going to be one hell of a fight. I love Danny Martinez. He's training at ATT with a dog in San Diego. So, yeah, he's a beast. I love that little kid. It's going to be a great fight between him and Scott Jorgensen. Then you have Lance Benoit versus Bobby Volkner. That's going to be a great fight. Little Pettis on the card, like you said. From top to bottom, this card is stacked. And I know, again, a lot of people were boo-hooing about this card. But, guys, you know, really check the facts about it. Every one of these fights means something to either the division or really the future career of these fighters. If Diego Sanchez loses to Ross Pearson in his backyard, you know, again, at that point he'll be 7-8 in his last 15 fights. I don't necessarily know that the UFC is going to keep him. You know, he's got a lot on the line. He's essentially fighting for his job here. So, you know, there again, a lot of stuff going on with this card. You definitely want to check it out. UFC Fight Pass starts at 7:30 p.m. So make sure that you are prepared for that, because you do want to see the man that got humiliated by Daniel Cormier, Patrick Cummins, facing off against Roger Narvaez. Then you have the preliminary card starting on Fox Sports 1 at 8 p.m. Eastern, followed by the main card again, Fox Sports 1 at 10 p.m. Eastern. So definitely make sure that you check it out. We will be here immediately following the card Saturday night to give you our thoughts and our breakdowns related to all of the fights. And who knows, we could be talking major upsets. We could be telling Shelky that he's right, and God forbid that be the case. And then we'll have to run outside, look at the stars, and see if there's a sign of the apocalypse coming, because that's what it would mean. But with that being said, guys, tonight's episode was brought to you by Battle Bomb, the only pain reliever with the knockout power. www.battlebomb.com. Check them out. Audio for tonight's episode was powered by Soul. Power, clarity, comfort. Soul Electronics. Get you some. All right, guys, that is going to do it for the evening. Like I said, we will be back Saturday night. For Jason Shelky, Justin Fuller, I'm Josh Davis. Keep living the MMA Corner lifestyle. Peace.